As a part of my Next Gen project, I wanted to create lessons that helped students to draw on their reflections in their reading as a means to help reflection in their writing and vice versa. I saw a need for more lessons like this as students need a process and common vocabulary for reading just as much as they need it for writing. Using the TDEC model allows students to see the connection between reading and writing and hopefully leads them away from using TDEC as a formula for writing and instead as a way to reflect on their process of thought in these interconnected tasks. Tara helped me to create a lesson using TDEC as a process of thought where students communicate with the author, figuratively and not literally, of course, to get behind his or her purpose and to reflect on how an author's choices add to the meaning of an overall text. Students first sat down with the text, a super short flash fiction piece from flashfictiononline.com, and annotated it individually. After this, students wrote bullet points for each of the main happenings in the story. These were their details. When they were done, students raised their hands, and I checked to make sure they were ready for the next task, which was to section their text and write one word or a short phrase out in the margins that best sum up the main detail for that section of text. I assigned each student only one section of the text after the first step. Students then worked in pairs to highlight a word or phrase in green, not an entire sentence, and the text in their assigned section that best represented what they wrote in the margin for that happening. This represented the author's detail for that section of text. Then, students highlighted in blue any factual information that supported their highlighted green text. These were their elaborations. The students then highlighted any opinion or feeling phrases in orange for their commentary. After each section, the author asked a question for students to reflect on how each highlighted phrase contributes to the author's message. Students went back to working on their own to answer questions using emoji faces that represented the purpose for each type of thought. The magnifying glass emoji represents the author's focus as students are asked questions about their detailed text highlighted in green. The telescope emoji represents the author's wide view as students are asked questions about additional facts that elaborate about the author's focus detail. Students are asked to focus on the different types of elaboration and section them off in the quadrant by deciphering between background, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and the explanation elaboration. And that way they can see that there are different types of elaboration. Students then focus on the commentary in orange to answer questions in the thought cloud emoji to look closer at the author's reason. And finally, the students see how everything works together in the final glasses emoji by reflecting on how each piece of text works together to connect the piece as a whole. In the final stage, students work in large groups with students who are assigned different parts of the text to piece their emojis together and see how others choose similar or different words or phrases as well to share their reflections. They group their emojis first by groups and then by how they appear in the story. Students took a picture of the groups, pasted them in a Google Doc, and typed under each set of pictures their reflections in the group and then sent them to me. For some of my lower classes, we had to do this together as a class as I helped guide them in front of one another, but they still had to do the work by writing it on the board. At the end, I asked for feedback from the students, and they said they realized how the highlighted text was all over the paragraphs and not in a linear fashion as they had once imagined TDEC. However, they noticed how each piece was present and worked together, and how if one piece was missing, they wouldn't have gotten the overall message or feeling behind the piece that the author wanted them to take away. One of the main things that I enjoyed about this activity was just seeing my students work at their own pace and not become too overwhelmed when others were moving ahead, as I made sure to preface it with readers follow their own process and don't look to others to see where you should be. But then they reconnected with others and were able to still work in pairs and in larger groups. And then pull back when they needed to do some reflection on their own.
Okay, and the details of provided to support the short way.
All right, so
What is it that you're doing today?
We wrote everything, all quotes from the story on the emojis the way the step 3 wanted us to do, and then now we're organizing in chronological order by emoji face.
Okay, what do you think that's going to help you to do?
That's probably,
I think it will help us better with TDEC.
Obviously, they're alike.
yeah, and knowing what section comes first and not getting
Yeah,
confused
and how
in
to
that.
divide sections.
So how does finding these elements of TDEC and your reading help you with your writing, organizing your thoughts in your writing?
So you know what to expect when you're writing it, because the author, an author that knows what they're doing is actually doing it correctly, so you can kind of use what they have been writing and use that kind of style to help your own writing.
Well, and it helps your order of things.
That way you
'cause,
don't
like,
get
you don't
mixed
get
up
out of
stuff.
order.
Yeah.
So it helps you organize your thoughts.
Yeah.
Good. Is there anything else that you think this activity has helped you to do better? Your reading or your writing?
I feel like annotating
Just
text.
organizing.
I feel like it helped us annotate text and our inferencing skills with like really understanding the story that we read.
Good. That's impressive. Anything else? All right. Great job.